Ladies and gentlemen, joining the Marine Band, please welcome back the United States Navy Band, Sea Chanters.
What shall be our legacy? What will our children say? Let them say, I was born in sharing the blessings I receive. Each generation from the plains to distant shore, with the gifts that they were given, were determined to leave more.
Valiant battles fought together, acts of conscience for the Lord. These are the seeds from which America has grown. Let them say of me, I was born in sharing the blessings I receive. Let me know in my heart when my days are through. America, America, I gave my best to you.
For those who think they have nothing to share, fear in their hearts, there is no hero there.
Know that quiet acts of dignity will help to fortify the soul of a nation that never dies. Let them say of me, I was born in sharing blessings I receive. Let me know in my heart when my days are through. America, America,
Ladies and gentlemen, please return to your tables. The program will begin shortly.
Somewhere a trumpet sounds in the night. A sailor is standing there. It's calling him out to the stars and the stripes. It's calling him God knows where.
He kisses the ones he loves goodbye and leaves in the dead of night. For freedom he'll heed the call, leave all he knows, and for freedom he'll stand and fight.
And somewhere a man and wife can't believe they're waving their girl goodbye. Forgot all the days of pigtails and curls and candlelit lullabies.
If they had their wish, he'd stay young forever and never be far from home. But freedom has drawn her heart to danger shore, and for freedom they'll let her go.
And somewhere a thunderous crash in the night, it echoes all through the hills. Though many escape its wrath and its rage, the sailor lies wounded still.
Remembering the land he loves, he cries, I love you with all my might. For freedom said, I'm her son, whatever comes, and for freedom I'll say goodbye.
Our flag is still standing there. She bled and she bought one land under God. Her promise still lead us there. She's buried the lives of those before us. She's buried the bold and brave. Freedom she holds our hopes and hands up high. And for freedom she'll ever
Ladies and gentlemen, please return to your tables. The program will begin shortly.
What difference if I hail from north or south, or from the east or west? My heart is filled with a love for all of these. I only know I swell with pride, and deep within my breast I thrill to see how glory paint the breeze.
This is my country, land of my choice. This is my country, hear my proud voice. I pledge my allegiance, America, America. This is my country to have and to go. There's a feeling after stealing, and it sets my brain a-reeling when I'm listening to the music of a military band. Any tune like Yankee Doodle simply sets me off my noodle. It's that patriotic something that no one can understand. That melody untiring, ain't that inspiring? Hurrah, hurrah, we'll join the Jubilee. And that's going some for the Yankees by gum. Red, white, and blue, I am for you. Honest, you're a grand old flag. You're a grand old flag, you're a high-flying flag, and forever in peace may you wave. You're the emblem of the land I love, the home of the free and the brave. Every heart beats true for the red, white, and blue, where there's never a false or brand. But should old acquaintance be forgot, keep your eye on the grand old,
Eye on the grand old,
eye on the grand old flag.
my native country, thee, land of the noble free, thy name I love. I love thy rocks and rills, thy woods and templed hills. My heart with rapture fills like that
My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land. and of the purest bride from every mountain Let freedom
Ladies and gentlemen, Please welcome the Secretary of the Interior, David Bernhardt.
Good evening and welcome. What a beautiful evening. To our distinguished guests, on behalf of the Department of the Interior and the National Park Service, it is a privilege to participate in a celebration for our great nation, honoring the brave men and women who have served and continue to serve in our armed forces. Last night, for the first time in more than a decade, fireworks illuminated the sky over the Mount Rushmore National Memorial. It was an event that would not have happened without the leadership and the enthusiasm of President Trump. For those of you that were not there, it was spectacular, and the president's speech was unifying and inspiring. The Department of the Interior and the National Park Service serve as the stewards and guardians of our nation's memorials, monuments, and battlefields. For 87 years, the National Park Service has cared for the south lawn of the White House and the Ellipse, both of which are part of President's Park. President's Park was designed by President Washington and Pierre L'Enfant. The history of this space is unparalleled in telling America's story. I also want to remind everybody that it was on July 3rd that John Adams described in 1776 his vision for how we should celebrate our nation's independence. He said it would be marked with pomp and parade, with shows, games, sports, guns, bells, bonfires, and illuminations from one end of the continent to the other. 244 years later, President Trump fosters Adams' vision, even in times of challenge. And as we've seen over the last 2 days, he's given him a run for his money. Adams recognized that the celebration of independence would bring the American people together. By doing so, we can each reflect upon and appreciate those founding principles and freedoms that unite us. President Trump recognizes that these principles must be guarded and protected to be maintained. Often, the responsibility of protecting our freedoms from assault has fallen to those who served in our armed services. So tonight, we recognize and express our appreciation to all the men and women who have served and fought for the principles and freedoms that make America a great nation. Thank you. Happy Independence Day, and God bless America.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Salute to America. We will begin by honoring our military service members and their families with the playing of the Armed Forces Medley. We invite those of you in the audience who are currently serving or have served, or if you have a loved one who is currently serving or has served, to please stand and show your spirit as your service song is played. The United States Coast Guard. The United States Space Force. The United States Air Force.
Off we go into the wild blue yonder, climbing high into the sun. Here they come, zooming to meet our thunder, and giving the gun. Down we dive, starting the flame from under, up the one, and of a roar. We live in fame on the ground and flank, hey, nothing can stop the U.S. Air Force.
The United States Navy.
Anchors away, my boys, anchors away. Farewell to foreign shores, we sail at break of day, of day. Our last night ashore, drink to the full, until we meet once more. Here's wishing we're on happy patrol.
The United States Marine Corps.
From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, we fight our country's battles in the air, on land and sea. As to fight for right and freedom, and to keep our honor clean. We are proud to wear the tricolor of the United States Army.
The United States Army.
As to fight for the right and to build the nation's might, and the army is holding the dawn. Out of all we have done, fighting till the battle's won, and the army is holding the dawn. For it's high, the army's on its way. Count off the kids from
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for our nation's colors. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States and First Lady Melania Trump. Ladies and gentlemen, from the United States Army Golden Knights, please welcome Sergeant First Class Ryan Reese.
Mr. President, Madam First Lady, guests, and the American people, it's truly an honor to be here this evening. I'd like to direct your attention high overhead to the beautiful sky behind us and our distinctively painted Bombardier Dash 8 aircraft that is flying at an altitude of 12,500 feet. The jump master or team leader is looking out the door of the aircraft, and the jumpers are out and the smoke is on. We now have members of the Army Golden Knights rapidly approaching speeds of 120 miles per hour. The initial part of the formation is called the base, and it forms quickly as these jumpers use their hands, arms, legs, and shoulders to safely complete the formation. They now separate and perform our bomb burst maneuver. Ladies and gentlemen, the high-flying black and gold of your very own United States Army parachute team, the Golden Knights. The aerial demonstration that you are seeing tonight is designed to showcase the maneuverability of the human body as it flies through the air and while under canopy. These jumpers are performing 3 separate maneuvers for you this evening. 1 was a mass formation that we just witnessed. 2 will be a side-by-side canopy formation. And 3, the ever difficult 1,200 square foot drop flag. The jumpers performing for you this evening are Sergeant First Class Trey Gullick, Sergeant First Class Chad Riddlebaugh. Performing our side-by-side canopy maneuver is Staff Sergeant Morgan George and Sergeant First Class Ryan O'Rourke. And finally, performing the difficult 1,200 square foot drop flag maneuver, the team leader of the demonstration team, flying the predominantly black and gold canopy, Sergeant First Class Roman Grijalva. At 1,000 feet, these jumpers can hear you very well. Ladies and gentlemen, now our national anthem.
Can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight for the ramparts we watched, where so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare of bursting in air came blue through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, sing us that star-spangled banner yet wave, for the land of the free and the love of the brave.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
Wow. You having a good time? Members of Congress,
members of my cabinet, and my fellow Americans, the First Lady and I are delighted to welcome you to the second annual Salute to America. On this wonderful day, we celebrate our history, our heroes, our heritage, our great American flag, and our freedom. Happy 4th of July to everyone. I want to thank the U.S. Army Golden Knights for that truly awe-inspiring display, tremendous talent. The Golden Knights and every member of the armed forces here this evening, we just want to say that you have earned the eternal gratitude of our entire nation. 244 years ago in Philadelphia, the 56 signers of our Declaration of Independence pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor to boldly proclaim this eternal truth that we are all made equal by God. Thanks to the courage of those patriots, on July 4th, 1776, the American Republic stands today as the greatest, most exceptional, and most virtuous nation in the history of the world. Our workers, our factories have revolutionized industries and lifted millions into prosperity. Our artists, architects, and engineers have inspired the globe with transcendent works of beauty. American heroes defeated the Nazis, dethroned the fascists, toppled the communists, saved American values, upheld American principles, and chased down the terrorists to the very ends of the earth. We are now in the process of defeating the radical left, the Marxists, the anarchists, the agitators, the looters, and people who, in many instances, have absolutely no clue what they are doing. Our inventors, scientists, doctors, and researchers have improved the lives of billions and billions of people all around the world. Our brave astronauts planted the American flag on the moon, and America will be the first nation to land on Mars. All Americans living today are the heirs of this magnificent legacy. We are the descendants of the most daring and courageous people ever to walk on the face of the earth. We inherit their towering confidence, unwavering enthusiasm, their unbridled ambition, and their unrelenting optimism. This is the untamed spirit that built this glorious nation, and this is the spirit that burns brightly within the soul of every American patriot. That is why we pay tribute to generations of American heroes whose names have etched on our monuments and memorials and in the pages of history and in the hearts of a very grateful people. We will never allow an angry mob to tear down our statues, erase our history, indoctrinate our children, or trample on our freedoms. We will safeguard our values, traditions, customs, and beliefs. We will teach our children to cherish and adore their country so that they can build its future. Together we will fight for the American dream, and we will defend, protect, and preserve American way of life, which began in 1492 when Columbus discovered America. Jobs and companies are coming back to our country like never before. The power of tariffs being imposed on foreign lands that took advantage of the United States for decades and decades have enabled us to make great trade deals where there were none. Tens of billions of dollars are now paid to the United States Treasury by these same countries. But there and then, we got hit by the virus that came from China. And we've made a lot of progress. Our strategy is moving along well. It goes out in one area and rears back its ugly face in another area. But we've learned a lot. We've learned how to put out the flame. We've made ventilators where there were none by the tens of thousands, to the point that we have far more than we need, and we are now distributing them to many foreign countries as a gesture of goodwill. Likewise, testing. There were no tests for a new virus, but now we have tested almost 40 million people. By so doing, we show cases, 99% of which are totally harmless. Results that no other country can show, because no other country is testing that we have, not in terms of the numbers or in terms of the quality. And now, just like everything else, we have become the manufacturer on record for ventilators. We have the most and finest testing anywhere in the world. And we are producing gowns and masks and surgical equipment in our country, where heretofore it was almost exclusively made in foreign lands, in particular China, where, ironically, this virus and others came from. China's secrecy, deceptions, and cover-up allowed it to spread all over the world, 189 countries. And China must be held fully accountable. With respect to remedies, we are now doing unbelievably well and are in deep testing on vaccines, treatments, and therapeutics. I want to send our thanks to the scientists and researchers around the country and even around the world who are at the forefront of our historic effort to rapidly develop and deliver life-saving treatments and ultimately a vaccine. We are unleashing our nation's scientific brilliance, and will likely have a therapeutic and/or vaccine solution long before the end of the year. We're very grateful to be joined this evening by Americans battling on the front lines to kill the virus. I just want to say that America thanks you. Please stand, please. Thank you very much. Great, brilliant people. These are great and brilliant people. Thank you. And brave people. Our movement is based on lifting all citizens to reach their fullest God-given potential. Never forget, we are one family and one nation. This rich heritage belongs to every citizen, young and old, first generation American. We want to go from first generation to 10th generation. It matters not. We are American. We are from the USA. This great heritage belongs to citizens of every background and of every walk of life. No matter our race, color, religion, or creed, we are one America, and we put America first. We will not allow anyone to divide our citizens by race or background. We will not allow them to foment hate, discord, and distrust. We will hold fast and true to the sacred loyalties that link us all as neighbors, as Americans, and as patriots. In every age, there have always been those who seek to lie about the past in order to gain power in the present. Those that are lying about our history, those who want us to be ashamed of who we are not interested in justice or in healing. Their goal is demolition. Our goal is not to destroy the greatest structure on earth, what we have built, the United States of America, to build a future where every family is safe, where every child is surrounded by love, where every community has equal opportunity, and every citizen enjoys great and everlasting dignity. Our past is not a burden to be cast away. It is not a miraculous foundation that will lift us to the next great summit of human endeavor. This incredible story of American progress is the story of each generation, picking up where the last finished, linked by time, by fate, and the eternal bonds of our national affection. Those who would sever those bonds would cut us off from the wisdom, the courage, the love, and the devotion that gave us everything we are today and everything we strive for tomorrow. We cannot let that happen. We will not throw away our heroes. We will honor them, and we will prove worthy of their sacrifice. These are great heroes. Let me also say a word to those in the media who falsely and consistently label their opponents as racists, who condemn patriotic citizens, who offer a clear and truthful defense of American unity. That's what our people are doing. We want a clear and faithful defense of American history, and we want unity. When you level these false charges, you not only slander me, you not only slander the American people, but you slander generations of heroes who gave their lives for America. You slander people much braver and more principled than you. You're slandering the young men who raised the flag at Iwo Jima and those who perished fighting for freedom in the Civil War. You slander them. You are dishonoring their great legacy and their memory by insisting that they fought for racism and they fought for oppression. They didn't fight for those things. They fought for the exact opposite. We will not let the legacy of these heroes be tarnished by you. The more you lie, the more you slander, the more you try to demean and divide, the more we will work hard to tell the truth, and we will win. The more you lie and demean and collude, the more credibility you lose. We want to bring the country together, and a free and open media will make this task a very easy one. Our country will be united. After all, what do we all want? We want a strong military, great education, housing, low taxes, law and order. We want safety. We want equal justice. We want religious liberty. We want faith and family and living in great communities and happy communities and safe communities. And we want great jobs, and we want to be respected by the rest of the world, not taken advantage of by the rest of the world, which has gone on for decade after decade. We should all want the same thing. How can it be any different than those things? The more bitter you become, the more we will appeal to love and patriotism, and the more we will rise above your hate to build a better future for every child in our great country. To celebrate America's majestic inheritance, yesterday I signed an executive order to create a brand new monument to our most beloved icons. The National Garden of American Heroes will be a vast outdoor park that will feature the statues of the greatest Americans who have ever lived. We will honor extraordinary citizens from every community and from every place and from every part of our nation. Great men and great women, people that we can look up to forever. Families will be able to walk among the statues of titans, and we have already selected the first 30 legacies and 30 legends. And why don't we start with a man who's been very unfairly treated, who 2 years ago, 3 years ago, especially 5 or 6 years ago, people would have said it's impossible to even attempt to try and disturb his incredible legacy and success. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Betsy Ross, Alexander Hamilton, Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, James Madison, Dolly Madison, the great Frederick Douglass, Abraham Lincoln, Harriet Tubman, Harriet Beecher Stowe, Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain, Clara Barton, Daniel Boone, Davy Crockett, Henry Clay, Susan B. Anthony, Booker T. Washington, Orville and Wilbur Wright, who are looking down, and you're going to see some planes like you have never seen before, because we build them better than anybody in the world. Greatest Air Force, the greatest fighters, the greatest everything. You're going to be seeing something. I just wonder what Orville and Wilbur would have been thinking if they ever got to see that. But they're looking, they're checking it out right now along with us. Amelia Earhart, a great, great athlete. No matter where he went, he was the best athlete. Jackie Robinson. George S. Patton, General Patton. He didn't know how to lose. He didn't know how to lose. General Douglas MacArthur. Audie Murphy. The great Billy Graham. An incredible man, respected by everybody, Martin Luther King. President Ronald Reagan, Krista McAuliffe, and Antonin Scalia. So those are just a few of the people we'll be naming, and things are subject to change. But once we make that decision, those great names are going to be up there, and they're never coming down. They have just been an incredible group, and we are going to do this in a very democratic way, frankly. We're going to take names and suggestions. We're going to have committees, and we're going to pick the greatest people that this country has ever known, the most respected people, the people that helped us the most, and the people that we can look up to and that our children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren can look up to into the future. And they can say, isn't America just a tremendous place? So thank you. That'll be very exciting. The patriots who built our country were not villains. They were heroes whose courageous deeds improved the earth beyond measure. The beauty and the glory of our constitutional system is that it gives us the tools to fight injustice, to heal division, and to continue the work of our founding fathers by expanding and growing the blessings of America. If you believe in justice, if you believe in freedom, if you believe in peace, then you must cherish the principles of our founding and the text of our Constitution. It's our founding and our Constitution. It is a firm foundation upon which all progress is achieved. That's why our country is so strong, even despite terrible things that happen over the generations. Here this evening are a number of heroes who risked their own lives to uphold these values and to keep our communities and our country safe. We are joined by the outstanding law enforcement officers who have been able to fight on the front lines, protecting our cities, many of them facing down violent assaults from very bad people. We are especially moved to be joined by the family of a great man, fallen officer David Dorn, a 38-year veteran of the St. Louis Police Department who was killed last month in the city he devoted his life to defending. And to David's great family, I want to thank you very much. The American people will always support the courageous men and women of law enforcement, and nobody embodies that better than David. Thank you very much. Please. And David is looking down right now, and he is so proud of you, and he loves you so much. And thank you for being here. It's a great man. It's a great man. Finally, tonight, we will salute the greatness and loyalty and valor of the men and women who have defended our independence for 244 years. We will honor the amazing men and women of the United States military. Never in history has a nation used so much power to advance so much good. Battlefields across the world and here at home are marked with the gravestones of young patriots who spent their final valiant moments on this earth to secure liberty and peace. Every child should be taught the military heroes who fought and died to make us free. These are great, great people. These are great, great heroes indeed. And our greatest leaders and heroes should be recognized and even immortalized for coming generations to see. You know that. This will make our country even stronger, long into the future. In a few moments, we will bear witness to awesome aircraft representing every major military conflict over the last 75 years. These planes once launched off massive aircraft carriers in the fiercest battles of World War II. They raced through the skies of Korea's MiG Alley. They carried American warriors into the dense fields and jungles of Vietnam. They delivered a swift and sweeping, you know that sweeping. It was swift and it was sweeping like nobody's ever seen anything happen. A victory in Operation Desert Storm. A lot of you were involved in that. A lot of you were involved. That was a quick one. And they've gone on to dangerous missions all around the world to take out enemy terrorists and bring our soldiers home safely. As you know, we've killed this last year the two leading terrorists of the last 10 years, al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, killed, gone, over. We have worked to fully rebuild the armed forces of the United States. No enemy on earth stands a chance. $2.5 trillion we've invested, all made in the USA. We've never had anything near the power and the equipment that we have right now. We did that over the last 3 years. Everywhere these aircraft have flown, they've rained down American thunder, delivered American justice, and they have fiercely defended every square inch of American sovereignty. In their steel frames, broad wings, and roaring engines, we see the story of America's daring defiance, its soaring spirit, and undying resolve. Throughout our history, our country has been tested and tried, but we have always fought to victory. Whenever our way of life has been threatened, our ancestors have responded with the same resounding answer as those first patriots who fought for independence. We are Americans, and we never back down, we never give in, and we never give up, and we will never yield defense of our nation. We love our nation. We will only fight to win. Today, we thank God for the gift of life and for the blessing of liberty. We honor the legends of our history, the glories of our founding fathers, and the giants of the past, the heroes of today, who keep us safe, who keep us strong and proud, and who keep us free. Once again, happy July 4th to all. Our country is in great shape. Our military has never been stronger, and many, many good things are going to happen. Next year will be one of the greatest years we've ever had. I want to thank our men and women. They are so good, of the National Park Service, Air Traffic Control, and the United States military. God bless you. God bless our heroes. God bless America. And now let the flyovers begin. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome world-renowned air show announcer Rob Ryder as he walks us through our salute of air power from World War II to the future. Please enjoy.
Good evening, Mr. President and Madam First Lady and distinguished guests. I'm Rob Ryder, and I'm honored to be your narrator for an aerial review to celebrate our Independence Day. Our flyovers tonight will showcase air power across time. Look at the screens and look above. Representing World War II, after we were brought into World War II by the bombing of Pearl Harbor. Approaching first, two very important airplanes known as C-47s. They were the military designation for the Douglas DC-3, the airliner that changed the way America traveled. Carrying 28 paratroopers, they were also involved in the D-Day invasion, over 1,000 of them in that operation alone on June 6, 1944. Over 10,000 of these aircraft were built. Following that, as we move from heritage to horizons and continuing in World War II, one of the most famous aircraft of all time. You can see it in the center of this formation. It is the Boeing B-17 bomber. Over 12,700 of these were built, flying daring daylight raids over Europe, bombing targets, military targets and industrial targets in Nazi-held Europe. And on the wings, the escort fighters, among the most well-known aircraft of all time, the North American Aviation P-51 Mustang. Over 15,000 of those were built. They, among others, were flown by the famed Tuskegee Airmen. The Tuskegee Airmen flew 15,000 sorties in Europe and North Africa during the war, earning the name by request. The radial engines on the B-17, the V-12 liquid-cooled Rolls-Royce designed Packard-built Merlin engines powering all of those aircraft. Of the more than 15,000 of those P-51s built between 1940 and 1945, about 160 remain flyable in the world today. Then Senator Harry Truman's Senate War Investigating Committee called the Mustang the most aerodynamically perfect pursuit plane in existence. At the beginning of the war, even though we were attacked by Japan, a great deal of our effort went to our allies in Europe who were being overrun by Nazi Germany. However, the C-47s that we saw were not only active in the European theater, but along with its naval counterpart, the R-4D, were key to the Allied campaign through Guadalcanal, New Guinea, and Burma to support the Chinese forces fighting the light-traveling Japanese army. More mundane of its duties, but probably of greater importance, was the use of the C-47s to haul urgently needed personnel and supplies, including fuel and munitions, in all theaters of the war. The C-47 flew hump missions over the Himalayas from India to China, leading to many of the tactics that would be used in the Berlin airlift of 1948 to 49. As the war in Europe wound down, the P-51 Mustang became more common. Eventually, with the capture of Iwo Jima, it was able to be used as the bomber escort during Boeing B-29 Superfortress missions against the Japanese homeland. But our fighting men and women were being pounded by the Japanese at every turn in the Pacific. They and those at home needed a morale boost. President Roosevelt put his military planners to work on an audacious plan to bomb the Japanese homeland. That island country hadn't been attacked on its own soil in over 2,000 years, and they felt invincible. Depending on whose accounts you read, Lieutenant Colonel Jimmy Doolittle and a general from the Army Air Force sat in a restaurant, and Doolittle hatched a plan that the general initially laughed at, but after a while thought it might work. It was to involve types of military hardware never intended to work together. And on April 18th, 1942, just 4 months after Pearl Harbor, two of these aircraft approaching from the right, the B-25 Mitchell bombers, that normally took a third of a mile to take off, were launched from the USS Aircraft Harrier Hornet in only 467 feet. The damage these 16 planes did to the Japanese homeland was minimal, but their feeling of invincibility was broken, and they kept much-needed personnel back for homeland defense. It was a strategic turning point in the war and remains to this day the air mission against which all other air missions have been measured. The largest plane in our Army Air Force inventory in World War II was the 99-foot-long, 140-feet wingspan of the Boeing B-29 Superfortress. It pushed the bounds of technology with a first-ever pressurized crew compartment and a radically advanced analog fire control system that allowed one gunner and a fire control officer to direct 4 remote machine gun turrets. The Superfortress, I should say, would have the greatest impact of any aircraft in the Pacific theater. On August 6, 1929, a B-29 named Enola Gay would drop the first atomic bomb on Hiroshima. 3 days later, a B-29 like this boxcar dropped the second atomic bomb on Nagasaki, leading to Japan's complete surrender at the end of the War of the Pacific on August 14th, 1945. Of the 4,000 B-29s that were built, you're seeing one of only 2 flying today. Ladies and gentlemen, the war in Europe and the war in the Pacific, from heritage to horizons. The Korean War, the conflict between the Democratic People's Republic of Korea and the Republic of Korea, South Korea, reached international proportions in June of 1950, when North Korea, supplied and advised by the Soviet Union, invaded the South. The United Nations, with the United States as the principal participant, joined the war on the side of the South Koreans, and the People's Republic of China came to North Korea's aid. Aerial warfare was a large factor in Korea. It was the first jet war. However, piston engine aircraft were still used in a great way during the Korean conflict. And as we see that B-29 flying off to the side, in just a moment, we will be seeing an airplane known as the A-26 Invader. Initially designed to replace 3 other twin-engine World War II airplanes, it was so good that it served ably in World War II, Korea, and even in Vietnam. It flew the first and last combat missions in the Korean conflict, and as a light bomber and attack aircraft, Invaders typically bombed truck convoys and trains, but also engaged MiG fighters. The 2 18-cylinder Pratt & Whitney radial engines developed 2,000 horsepower each, giving the Invader the capability to carry 11,000 pounds of munitions at a speed of more than 350 miles per hour. And in 1940, Chance Vought Corporation built what was then the fastest single-engined aircraft ever built, the F-4U Corsair. The bent wing bird, as it was known, it achieved a forward speed of 400 miles per hour with its 2,000 horsepower R-2800 Pratt & Whitney radial engine. The Japanese soldiers dubbed it Whistling Death because of the sound it made during its ground attack missions. But an air-to-air role, it racked up an impressive 11-to-1 aerial victory ratio against Japanese planes. The Corsair remained in production longer than any other single-engine piston-driven fighter, with the last one coming off the production line in late 1952. In late 1952, September of that year, Marine Captain Jesse Fulmer, flying a piston-driven F-4U Corsair, shot down a MiG-15 jet and was awarded the Silver Star by the President. In all, 12,571 Corsairs were built by Chance Vought, Brewster Aircraft, and, believe it or not, the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company of Akron, Ohio. At the beginning of the conflict, our straight-wing Lockheed Shooting Stars were totally outclassed by the swept-winged Russian MiG, but we rushed into production a swept-wing fighter by North American Aviation called the F-86 Sabre jet. It racked up a better than 10-to-1 victory ratio, but sadly, the F-86 that we had hoped to have flying here this evening came up with a mechanical problem and was unable to be here. Coming through on the screens now from the right, you can see the Douglas Invader, the light bomber. In the picture with it, you can see the bent wing bird on that Chance Vought Corsair with its huge engine and a huge propeller. And then from P-51 to F-51 as the new designation of the young United States Air Force. On the right wing, the Mustang also served ably during the Korean conflict. Let's listen. Moving on to Vietnam. The Vietnam War pitted the communist government of North Vietnam against South Vietnam. And during the war, the United States relied on the helicopter in combat as never before. It truly became the helicopter war. Many of you will remember the TV show and movie MASH about the mobile army surgical hospitals during the Korean conflict. Well, the opening sequence showed wounded soldiers being transported by a bubble-canopied helicopter known as the Bell H-13 Sioux helicopter. It was during that war that the helicopter became indispensable, greatly increasing the survivability of wounded soldiers on the battlefield by airlifting them to the MASH units. In 1965, the Army began testing and developing new techniques to enhance future warfighting capabilities. Helicopter tactics developed in Korea were adapting and evolving to support a new concept in maneuver warfare, air mobility. And here they come. The Huey, the UH-1 Iroquois. An estimated 11,000 took to the skies for almost 19 years. They flew slicks, troop carriers, gunship missions, attack, and dust-off medical evaluation. The UH-1s we see flying here today are from the 1st Helicopter Squadron from Joint Base Andrews. And just last December, they celebrated their 50th anniversary. Coming through after that, developed from the UH-1 Iroquois, these are the Cobras, the first helicopter designed from the skids up to be an attack helicopter. And following that, the heavy lift CH-47 Chinook with an incredible capability to carry nearly 22,750 pounds underneath the aircraft. It was 1946 that this airplane was first thought of, and it was in 1948 that Boeing designers in one weekend came up with this incredible design of an airplane that has now been flying for the United States Air Force for 68 years. Swept wing, the ability to go over 8,000 miles at speeds of over 600 miles per hour. This, ladies and gentlemen, one of the triad of the Air Force's bomber capabilities, the B-52 Stratofortress. Dropping tens of thousands of tons of bombs during the Vietnam conflict. It was known as the Buff, the big, ugly, fat fella. In all, 744 were built. About 75 still remain in service today and is expected to remain so until 2040. I am told that grandfathers, sons, and grandsons have all flown the B-52 bomber in the course of those 68 years. Moving now to Desert Storm. And in August of 1990, Iraqi forces under the control of Saddam Hussein invaded the sovereign nation of Kuwait in the Middle East. Kuwaiti forces were quickly overwhelmed by the Iraqi Republican Guard divisions, and in the coming months, the United States led a coalition to force the withdrawal of Iraqi forces from Kuwait. And on a dark, quiet morning in January, only feet above the Kuwaiti desert, 8 Apache helicopters from the 101st Airborne Division fired the first shots of Operation Desert Storm. Apaches destroyed 2 Iraqi early warning radar sites, blinding Iraqi radar and air defense forces and setting conditions for the beginning of the larger air campaign by the Air Force and the Navy. The Apache, still the most advanced attack helicopter today, is commonly referred to as a flying tank, able to survive in highly contested environments while inflicting maximum damage to enemy targets day or night in poor weather conditions. Also serving in that war, the UH-60 Black Hawk helicopter by Sikorsky, the Army's utility tactical transport helicopter. The Black Hawk has replaced the famous Huey as the Army's workhorse, and a single Black Hawk can transport an entire 11-person, fully equipped infantry squad into battle. Over the years, the UH-60 has been constantly upgraded with more powerful engines and other improvements. Here come the helos. And as they approach, let me tell you about the next airplanes coming through. Ever since World War I, the first air war, where the average life of a fighter pilot was only 3 weeks, achieving air superiority has been the goal of military planners. An airplane that first flew in 1972 and entered service in 1976 has long been considered an air superiority fighter, the F-15 Eagle. Capable of speeds at more than 2.5 times the speed of sound, Mach 2.5, or for us non-fighter pilots, that's 1,875 miles per hour. The single-seat F-15C and its younger brother, the two-seat F-15E Strike Eagle, have dominated the skies in any battle situation with power, maneuverability, and a wide variety of weapons. Its kill ratio is unmatched. 104 aerial combat victories and 0 losses. The incredible thrust-to-weight ratio of the Eagle enabled it to set a number of world records, including a time-to-climb record of 98,400 feet. That's 18.5 miles in just under 2.5 minutes. The Strike Eagle utilizes a second crew member and advanced radar and avionics to enable it to become the lethal ground attack aircraft. At the beginning of the Gulf War, Strike Eagles flying at 600 miles per hour, 100 feet above desert sands, used terrain-following radar, lights out, to take out Saddam's early warning radars. Overhead now, we see the Apache helicopters, followed by the UH-60 Blackhawks. And here come the Eagles. I know a lot of you have your cameras up, but if you don't, how about a round of applause for what we've seen thus far? The events of September 11th, 2001 changed the world and forever reshaped history. Our brave servicemen and women are still committed to keeping Americans safe today, and approaching in just a moment are a few of the many aircraft that have served vital roles in the war on terrorism. Igor Sikorsky, the father of the modern helicopter, overcame significant aerodynamic and physics challenges in his development of rotary winged flight. Without getting into a lot of mind-numbing stuff, a phenomenon called retreating blade stall has always limited the speed at which a helicopter could travel. The Holy Grail would be to develop an aircraft that could take off and land vertically, but be able to fly as fast as a conventional airplane. In the 1980s, Bell Aircraft, the same company that developed the MASH helicopter and the Huey and the Cobra, experimented with a very unique concept called tilt rotor, in which large prop rotors would be directly connected to the engines and then rotated vertically for helicopter mode flight, and then moved into a horizontal position to attain conventional airplane flight. The result is the MV-22 Osprey, an aircraft that can deliver 24 fully equipped troops to the battle space at speeds of over 300 miles per hour and then land vertically like a helicopter. Its load lifting capabilities are significant, with the ability to carry an internal load of more than 9,000 pounds or 15,000 pounds externally. The pilot of the Osprey has to have his or her left thumb working, because if it doesn't, they can't rotate those prop rotors down. The unmistakable sound of the MV-22 Osprey. An integral part of the team fighting the global war on terror is the U.S. Coast Guard, that has the responsibility of patrolling and protecting 100,000 miles of U.S. coastline and inland waterways. In existence since 1790, it's the smallest branch of our military. In fact, the entire active duty force of the Coast Guard could fit into Nationals Park. Here we see, in formation, in the lead, the Sikorsky Jayhawk and the MH-65 Dolphin helicopter. The Coast Guard has also projected its capabilities beyond our borders, performing security and interdiction in the Persian Gulf in 1991 in support of Operation Desert Storm. Carrying the largest conventional payload of both guided and unguided weapons in the United States inventory is the multi-mission B-1B, which along with the B-52 and the B-2 are part of the three-legged stool of America's strategic long-range bomber force. The B-1 Lancer, or the Bone as it is known, look at this. A 181-foot wingspan can fold them back to 78 feet. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the sound of freedom. And only a few airplanes were so successful that their names were passed down to a second generation of aircraft. And the two airplanes built on Long Island have that distinction. From World War II, the Republic P-47 Thunderbolt, and 30 years later, the Fairchild Republic A-10 Thunderbolt II. Built for close air support, flying low and slow, the Warthog was built around a very potent 7-barreled cannon, the GAU-8 Avenger, firing 30 millimeter shells the size of Coke bottles at a rate of 4,000 rounds per minute. That's 65 rounds each second. It totally earned its name, Tank Killer. The future is now. Since the early days of aviation, air crews have wanted to get more gas without having to land and keep going. Early attempts to refuel in midair involved a guy standing on the wing of an airplane while another flew overhead, dangling a hose. But over the years, the art of aerial refueling, or if I may use the indelicate phrase, passing gas, has become refined. Since just after World War II, though, there have been basically only 3 different airplanes from the Air Force tasked with the job of mid-air refueling. One of those, the KC-135 Stratotanker, has been in service since the late 1950s, but it is going to be replaced with a new KC-46A Pegasus. It may look familiar to you because it's based on the Boeing 767 airliner. Passing gas at 1,200 gallons per minute, 25% faster than the old KC-135. It's a marvel of modern technology. It's kind of like going from a car with a cassette player, you remember those, to a brand new vehicle with Apple CarPlay. Additionally, the Pegasus will offer significantly increased cargo, passenger, and aeromedical evacuation capabilities. And as we've looked at several generations of airplanes in the last half hour, and I've been talking about them at air shows around the world, the last thing that was thought of by military planners was, well, maybe the first thing was how many airplanes would it take to destroy a target? Well, now it's changed. It's how many targets can one aircraft destroy? Approaching now one of the most unique aircraft, even in service since 2003. This is the B-2 Spirit. Following along behind the KC-46, And the aircraft now in sight, a flying wing, Jack Northrop's dream from 1949 with a 186-foot wingspan. Doesn't look like anything we've ever seen. It can carry conventional bombs from 500-pounders to the GBU-57, or even the 30,000-pound massive ordnance penetrator to nuclear weapons. The B-2, only 20 of them in existence, will continue to serve our country for many years to come. Overhead now, the F-22 Raptor. The Raptor's two engines produce a total of 70,000 pounds of thrust, and its stealthy design allow it to accelerate faster than the speed of sound without using the afterburner. It's called Super Cruise. In its air show performances, the Raptor shows incredible maneuverability, able to do a backflip, almost standing still in the air at 3,000 feet, or doing a tail slide, nose straight up, going backwards under complete control. And the newest fighter aircraft for the United States military is the F-35 Lightning II, named after the famed World War II P-38 Lightning. There's a version for the Air Force, one for the Navy, one for the Marine Corps, and 8 partner nations share those airplanes as well. They give the U.S. and its allies the power to dominate the skies anytime, anywhere. The F-35 is an agile, versatile, high-performance, multi-role fighter that combines stealth, sensor fusion, and an unprecedented situational awareness. The F-35's helmet-mounted display is the most advanced system of its kind. All the intelligence and targeting information an F-35 pilot needs to complete the mission is displayed on the helmet's visor. And 6 super-sensitive cameras mounted on the outside of the aircraft allow her or him to look in any direction and have visual acuity far greater than the naked eye, day or night. The pilot can look down the floor of the cockpit and see right through it. It's like X-ray vision, simply astounding. We'll see today 2 of the B models from the United States Marine Corps. But in all, over 535 of the F-35s are now flying today, with over 1,000 pilots and having reached initial operating capability here in the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, no aerial display would be complete without some very good friends of mine. They represent the greatest military jet demonstration teams on the face of the earth. They are from Naval Air Station Pensacola. They are the Blue Angels, and they are the Thunderbirds from Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada. The Blues are commanded by Commander Brian Kesselring, and the Thunderbirds led by Lieutenant Colonel John Caldwell. The Thunderbirds flying the F-16 Fighting Falcon that has been in service with the United States since the mid-1970s. And the Blue Angels flying the famed F-A-18 Hornet, also in service with the United States Navy and Marine Corps since the 1970s as well. I want you to join with me as we wait for these aircraft to approach. They have been flying missions all over the country, supporting the work done by so many during this COVID crisis. The Blue Angels exemplify the Navy values of honor, courage, and commitment. And the Thunderbirds serve to represent all the men and women of the United States Air Force as our ambassadors in blue. Ladies and gentlemen, the Thunderbirds and the Blue Angels. Put your hands together for the Blues and the Birds.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President's Own United States Marine Band and the Navy Sea Chanters will now perform a special selection in honor of our nation's birthday, America the Beautiful.
Beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of gray, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood, from sea to shining sea. Beautiful formation's dream that sees beyond thy years. Thine alabaster cities leave on in thy hands and crown thy good with brotherhood. From sea to
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand and turn your attention to the White House. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in the singing of God Bless America.
Mountains to the prairie, to the oceans where we come. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home.